Hi everyone, welcome to Hobby Rocks. It's Tracy here, and this is my very first ever tutorial that I'm going to show you for knitting. Now, if you want, some of you may know me from Crochet Rocks, my other channel, and if it's crochet you're after, then that's the best place for you, and you'll find a link to Crochet Rocks along with my other channels in the description box below. When I say other channels, there's not really that many. And also a link to my shop, which is also called Hobby Rocks. If you haven't found it already, it's hobbyrocks.co.uk, and I sell yarn and crochet and knitting and all kind of crafty accessories. So what I'm going to show you today is two methods of casting on. The two most basic and simple ones that I've always used. Now, my mum taught me the second one, and that's what we used all of the time. So you make a slip knot, and you can make that however you normally do. But if you're an absolute beginner, the best way I found is to make a loop and then put the yarn behind it, bring it through and pull it. So that's quite a long tail, but if this was just a swatch, it's not such a problem not to have a long tail. But if you're making something and you want to weave that in, it's a good way to sort of get into practice of keeping a nice, generous tail. So we're going to insert the needle. Now, at the moment, I'm just using an offcut, really, of DK yarn. So I've got some 4mm crochet hooks, but this is just to show you. So here we are. We've got our needle with our loop on it. And this one, we insert, we go through the loop, okay, and behind this needle. I think I might have pulled it too tight. No, I haven't. There's a big loop there. Okay, so we're in. So we push that through the loop. And so this one, the one you're pushing in, goes behind this one here. Okay, so I've got my yarn on the wrong side, so let's put it the right way. So I normally loop this around my middle finger, and I yarn over that needle, and I pull it through, pull some through, and I twist it and put it on my needle. And it's as simple as that, and you're making a stitch from another stitch. So again, we'll go into this stitch. Now this is just called the single cast on. So you don't have to have it tight, you can push that through. So this one is at the back, you yarn over and you pull that, and as you do, you bring it forward and then use this one to take it off and put it on the needle. Again, we're going to insert it so that this one goes to the back, yarning over so that will go between those two needles, and as you pull it, you grab that loop, you bring it forward, and then this one comes round the front and you take it off. Again, into the stitch, and you yarn over so it goes between the two needles, and as you bring that round, you pull it through, this one comes in front, and you just take it off, and you carry on taking on new stitches from the previous one. Okay, and then you get quite a neat edge. You get quite a neat edge to your work. It's not overly stretchy. So when you get to the bottom of a garment and it has that nice shape to it, that's kind of the shape you're going for. But it has a little bit more stretch than the second method that I'm going to show you. So we'll do a few more of these just to get used to them. So we're going into the stitch, yarning over so that it goes between the two needles, and we're bringing this one forward with the loop and pulling it through. This one then comes round and takes it off. Okay, so that's the first method. And then you can just go ahead and do your knitting. But the way I was taught by my mum, and this is called the cable cast on, and it just makes, I feel, a little bit more of a, well, you'll see, a more of a structured edge. So we go between our stitches. We'll take these off because otherwise you won't see the first one. Okay, so that was that cast on, and this is the next one. So we start exactly the same way because we don't have any other way of bringing a stitch on. So that is exactly the same. But now we're not going to go through here. We're going to go between these two. So we've just inserted our hook between those two stitches. We're going to yarn over and we're going to bring it round, bring that through, and exactly the same way as before, take it off. And then we insert between these two, we yarn over, bring that through with the yarn and place it on the next hook. Next, it's not a hook. I'm so used to crocheting. Okay, I do knit. I knit quite often, but not as often as I crochet. So you can always give it a little tug if it ends up getting a little loose. My tail is getting in the way. It's much easier when you're holding it yourself, you know, rather than in front of a camera. But as you can see, the fact that I'm much faster at it and I have more control over it, you can see I'm more used to doing it this way, can't you? There are lots and lots of other methods of casting on that as you get more into knitting, you will notice that there's different methods for different projects. So if you were making socks, you wouldn't want a tight one. You'd want one that was a little bit more pliable. The clicking is where it's hitting my equipment, so it doesn't, it's where I let go of the, I'm letting go of the needle, just so that, because I'm not sitting normally. So there you go. You can see it is actually creating very similar edge, but it's a little more uniform. And I find that the stitches are a little more uniform as well. But it's not as elastic. It's not as stretchy as the previous method. The previous method was just a little bit more stretchy. So we'll put a few more on, and then we'll have something to work with. We don't need to do too much. We'll do a few little tutorials while we have this on our hook. So just hook, needle, for goodness sake. While we're on the subject of needles, I find that they are a little bit of a personal preference. Now for me, these are quite old needles. These were my mum's, and they're my favourite kind of needle. I don't know how many stitches we've got. Let's have a count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19. So we'll have one more. Okay. We have 20. And that's how we do the cable cast on. So as you can see, this was a little bit baggier at the beginning, but you can tighten that up so that they're all nice and even. They've got this nice rippled edge. And if you look at the edge, let's put this down. If you look at the edge, it's got a nice little kind of weave to the end. But if we turn it, you can see it's got this little line that goes, so I can try and zoom a little bit. So when you're looking at it, you've got this little line under every single stitch, and that means it's a purl row. So you've casted, this method of cast on starts you on a knit row. That might not mean much to a beginner at this precise moment in time. But those are my 2 methods of cast on. So now that I've got my 20 stitches, I'm going to end this particular tutorial and start straight away with one that will show you the next stitch. So do join me on that one. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.